Hello there and welcome to this new video of interfaces in C# 8. Whenever we talk about interface in C#, we always talk about these 3 points. First is it is an contract. Second is the class that will implement the interface must provide the implementation of all its members. It means if you are having an interface and any class is going to implement that, then that class has to provide the implementation of all the members that are available in that interface. And the third one is the interfaces members cannot have the body. Other than this, interfaces can have only 4 type of members. First is the methods, properties, indexers and the events. So whatever I'm talking, it is before the 8th version of C#. Let's open the Visual Studio and let's do a basic setup of interface and the class. Here I'm using this Visual Studio 2022 and at this point I'm using the .NET Core. If I open the command prompt just to verify the version of the .NET, so let's just type .NET info. So as of now I'm using this 6.0.8 version of .NET Core, but the version does not matter because at this point I'm talking about the previous features of the interface. So let's create a new project. So I'm clicking on this create new project and here let's choose this console application using the .NET Core. Let's click on this next button and let's give any meaningful name. Here I'm typing interface new features. Click on the next button and here we have to choose the version of the .NET, and here let's use the latest one that I have installed in the system. It is .NET 6. Let's click on the create button. Here we are having this very simple console application in the Visual Studio 2022. If you do not want to use this one or you want to work with the VS Code, then you can also use the VS Code, and whatever we are talking over here in this video, everything is applicable in the VS Code as well. Okay, let's get a very simple interface. So I'm just going to click add and the new item, and here I have to work on the interface. So this is the interface and let's add one very simple interface. I'm writing iBook. Click on the OK button and this is the first interface that we are having in this application. Other than this, let's add one more class, new item, and here we are having this class. Let's give any meaningful name. Let's see, here I'm writing book. Okay, and let's use that interface over here. So this is how it is working. We are having a blank interface and we are having a blank class as of now, but in this interface if I will add some method, let's say here I'm writing string name, this one, we are good as of now. But if I go to the book class, then you will see we are getting an error that this class has to implement whatever we have in this book. So you can see we are getting this error, and let's just click on this one and implement this interface, and the error is gone. This is how we used to work with the interface in .NET. Now let's see what we have now. When the 3.0 version of the .NET Core was launched, along with that C# 8 was also launched, and in the C# 8 there were a couple of features that were added to the interfaces. All those features are also applicable in the latest version of C#. So if you are using the 9th version, 10th version or even the 11th version, all these features that we will discuss now, everything is applicable in all the versions. But if you talk about the .NET framework, that is also supported by the Microsoft and the development is also happening over there also. If we are using even the latest one, that is the 4.8, these features will not be supported over there. So to work with these features, you have to use either the .NET Core 3.0 or any greater version of the .NET Core framework. Let's understand what are the new features of interfaces in C# 8. If you remember, we were having only 4 type of members in the interfaces, but now we are having so many of them. We can have methods, properties, indexers, events, constants, operators, static constructor, nested types, static fields, and we can also have the member declaration using the explicit interface implementation. We can also provide the access modifiers to our members, and we can also have the default interface members. So there are so many features that have been added to the interfaces in this version, and because of all these features, you might have to rethink about the architecture of your application. If you are going to start the development of any new application and you are thinking about the architecture, then make sure you are using the latest features in that application. First, let's talk about the default interface members. Here again we are back to our console application, and in this console application you will see we are having this book. So let's just use here, let's use the return keyword and let's just return a name. So I'm writing name from book class. Okay, if I go to the program class and I create the new instance of this book, so here is the program class and I'm just using this book. The book is not available over here, so let's use that namespace. So I'm using the interface new features namespace over there like this, and let's just remove this console.writeLine because it is not required now, and even remove this first line also. So here is the book. Let's use a variable that is book, and let's use this new book, and in the console.writeLine I'm using this book dot this name. Okay, let's run this application and let's see what we have over here. You will see it is working fine and we are having the message from this name from book class. If instead of having this book I'm having the interface that is the iBook and try to run this application again, let's see what we have this time. This time also you will see that we are having this message from this book class. So this is something that we used to have in the earlier version of interfaces. But now if I go to this iBook and over here I can just implement this method also. So what I can do is I'm writing return name from iBook interface. So this time if I go to this book and over here let's just comment this line because it is not even required now. And see, we are having this class, it is implementing this iBook interface, but we are not having any error because we have provided the default implementation of a method in that interface over here. Cool, and there is no error. If I build this application by using this, right click over here and use this build, you will notice that the build is also successful. And what we have in the program.cs, we are having the type of this iBook and we are creating the instance of this book class. Let's run this application and let's see what we have. You will see we are having the message from interface name from iBook interface. Okay, in this situation if I want to use the book over here like this and just run this application, you will see we are having the error at the compile time. It is saying that this book class does not contain anything about the name. Why we are having this error over here? In the C# programming language, the parent can have the instance of the child, but the child cannot have the instance of the parent. And this member is written in this iBook interface. So it means directly it is not accessible to this book class. If you want to use that, you have to create the instance of this iBook. But if you want to override that feature, then you can just enable it. So what we are having over here now, we are having this public string name and we are returning this message from the book class. We are having the same name, same return type method in this book class, and we are also having this same name and same return type method in this iBook interface. Go to this program class and let's just run this application with this book class. We are having the message from this name from book class. This time we are not getting the message from interface because the class is providing its own implementation, and if the class is providing the own implementation, then it will hide the default implementation of the interface. Now let's see what will happen if I'm using the interface type at this place. So I'm using this iBook. Let's run this application again. This time also you will see we are getting the message from book class because the class is hiding the implementation of the interface members. This is the first feature that you can have in your interface. And let's assume that you are having one more method over here. So here I'm writing void display message, and I'm not providing any body over here. If I go to the book class at this time, you will see we are having the error because if any member does not have the implementation, then the class has to provide the implementation of that member. So because the iBook interface does not have the implementation of this display message method, that is why this class is getting the error and it has to provide the implementation of that display message. So let's just use this approach, implement interface, and there we go. Here you can just print any message, console.writeLine, and here I'm writing message from book class. That's it, and this time you will see the error is gone. Let's talk about our second feature where we will inherit one interface from another one. Here again we are back to our application, and over here in this application let's add one more interface. Let's just right click on this name of this solution and just use this add new item. So here I have to choose the interface, and over here let's use iBook. Let's give it any meaningful name. Let's say I'm writing better. You can provide any meaningful name as per the need of your application, and let's click on this add button. Over here we are having this one more interface, internal interface iBook better, and let's inherit this interface from the iBook interface. So here I'm writing iBook interface. Okay, if by default I'm not writing anything over here, then you will see there is no error. If I will use this iBook better in this book class like this and try to run this application in the program.cs, let's use this iBook first. Let's run this application without making any further change. We are getting the message from this class. If I use this iBook better, this one, run this application again, you will notice still we are getting the message from this book class. And also if I use only the book type, that is the book class, this application will still work. Here we are. But now let's make some changes in this application, and this time in this iBook better interface, that is the second one. Here in this interface I want to implement this name method. So let's just copy this name method completely and go back to this iBook better interface, and let's just paste the changes and just save it. Immediately you will see we are getting a warning over here. It is saying this name hides inherited member iBook.name. If this change is intentional, then we have to use the new keyword. So just to avoid this error, if I'm using the new keyword over here, and this time let's see what will happen if I will run this application. So here I'm just updating the message, that is iBook better. So in this iBook interface we are having this iBook interface message. In this better one we are having this second message, and in the class we are having this class message. Okay, go to the program class, and over here let's just use the iBook interface and let's run what we have. We are getting the message from the book class, but let's use the better one, that is the iBook better interface. Run it. We are getting the message again from this book class. Use the book. Now let's make one more change and let's just comment this line. So what we have now, we are having only the implementation in both the interfaces but not in the class. Okay, go to the program.cs class again, and this time you will see we are getting the error message because this name method is not accessible to book because we are getting the instance of book type. So here let's use the iBook first, and let's run this application again. You will see we are getting the message from iBook interface, and if I will use that iBook better, run this application again, this time you will see we are getting the message from this iBook better interface. Okay, if you are having this type of situation in the interfaces, then instead of using this new keyword, you have to use the explicit implementation. So over here what I'm doing, I'm using this iBook dot name. So this is the explicit implementation of the interfaces. Now again, if I go to the program.cs class and run this application, you will see I'm getting the message from this iBook better interface. And if I just remove this iBook, run this application again, this time you will see we are still getting the message from this iBook better interface. And this is the benefit of using the explicit implementation of the interfaces. Earlier this method was hiding the implementation of this iBook interface, but this time it is not hiding, we are just overriding the implementation of the name method from the iBook interface. Let's talk about our third feature that is possible in the interfaces, and we can declare static methods and fields in the interface. For now let's just comment this line, okay, and just go to the iBook interface. Over here, instead of using this normal method, you can also declare it as static like this. And if something is static in the C#, then that is accessible only by using the name of that class or the interface in this case. So if I go to this program.cs class, here you will see we are getting the error message. We don't need this line this time. Let's just remove it, and here I can simply use iBook. iBook.name. I'm using that method from the iBook interface only by using its name. Let's just run this application and let's see what we have. We are getting the message because it is an static one, so it is working fine. Other than the method, you can also declare some fields over here. So here I'm writing static string title. This is the book title and this is the message. And using this approach, I can also declare the fields here in the interface. Let's try to display this message also in the program.cs class. So here I'm using one more console.writeLine, and over here this time I'm using iBook.title. Cool. Let's run this application again. The first message will come from the method and the second one is coming from this field. There is one more interesting approach. If I go to this interface and let's say I'm not using the static, then you will notice we will get an error. It is saying we can have only the static fields in the interface. We cannot have the normal one because these will work with the instance and we cannot create the instance of an interface. So if you want to work with the fields, you can have only the static one like this. Next is static constructor in interface. Because we are having the static fields, it means we can also have the static constructor also in an interface, and this is a quite great feature. So here I'm using one constructor. This is the constructor, and the normal constructor is not possible because this will be used to create the instance, and the instance is not possible in case of interface. So here I'm using the static one. Cool. And you will see there is no error this time. And what is the use of this static constructor? The use of the static constructor is that you can define your static fields over here. So let's say I'm not having this implementation over here. I'm just removing it. I'm only declaring this field over here and I'm assigning its value here in this constructor. So I'm using this title is equals to this one, and let's update the message from constructor. Just save all the changes and let's run this application without making any further change. And remember, we are displaying this value in the program.cs class over here. Let's run this application. So what we have now, we are having the message from the static field and we are setting its value from the static constructor. So this is quite a great feature, and none of them is possible in the previous version of the interface. At the last, we have some great feature also, and it is access modifiers in interface. If I go to this interface, that is the iBook, over here we can use the access modifiers, and that is public, private, internal, all of them. We can use any one of them over here. So let's say I'm using the private this time over here, and let's just remove this static one and go back to this program.cs class, create the instance here, and let's just use this book. You will see it is not accessible and we are getting the error. It is saying that it is inaccessible due to its protection level. So here we are in this iBook, and if I will just remove it and make it public, by default it will be public if you are not putting any access modifier. So let's say I'm just removing it, so by default it will be public. If you want to define the explicit, so you can also put the public, and this time you will notice that the error will be gone. And what is the use of this access modifier in the interface? You can use this feature for the abstraction level, and if you are having any implementation of a method in your interface and you want to put some of the logic in a private method, then you can create a private method in the interface and you can use that over here, and that private method will be accessible only from inside this interface. Any other class or interface cannot access that private member. So this is also a great feature of interfaces. Let's talk about constants in the interface. Just like we are declaring the static fields in the interface, we can also use the constants here also. So I'm using the constant string, and let's say I'm using the author. What I'm writing over here, it is, let's say this is the name of the author. Cool. And you can see there is no error. It means we can use the constants also in your interface. And these are some great features that have been added to the interfaces in the C# 8 version. Let me know your favorite feature of the interface in the comment section below. If you are having any question, feel free to write down in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Thank you for watching.